In this video, we're going to be talking about the 1980 film Cruising, which was directed by William Friedkin and stars Al Pacino. Or Coffee with Aliens at the Movies, a film education and film review channel. My name is Robert Bellissimo. I'm an actor and acting teacher.
I'm Steve Chambers. I'm a writer and actor.
And if this is your first time here, or if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our channel by clicking the red watermark subscribe button, which you can find in the bottom right of our screen, and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time we release a new video or go live.
It's your pick, man. So why'd you pick this one, and what do you like about it?
Well, I haven't seen it a ton of times, but I've seen it a decent amount of times. And I saw this when I was really young. I saw this when I was like 16, and I always got caught up in the mood of it. I like the mood, even the score, the very blue and black, dark colors. I mean, it could even be a black and white film. There's really no color in it, which they had originally had in mind, but then of course the studio said no. So it's just a very moody, this crime thriller. And then when I watched it again, I thought to myself, this is not just a crime story, murder mystery where the backdrop is these S&M clubs and this gay killer killing gay men on the loose. This is really about repressed homosexuality. And I don't know how it never dawned on me, because Pacino's character, as he's going into this world, at first he's very timid, and he can't quite, and he's trying to get into it, and he's working out more, he's getting more of the wardrobe, and suddenly you see him enjoying himself more. Like there's one scene where he's dancing with everyone, and he's really involved in the dancing with the guys, and you think, okay, is he posing so that they'll trust him so he can get more information? But then you watch as he leaves that club, there's one scene where he goes to with his girlfriend, and he's having sex with her, and he's having, like, it's aggressive. Like, it's not aggressive that he's hurting her, but it's really passionate. And you think, it's just like, right after the S&M club, he's that kind of horny, so to speak. And then another scene where he's having sex with her, and suddenly he's hearing the chanting and the noise of the all the sex happening in the club, and then as he gets more and more involved, he says to Paul Sorvino, "It's doing something to me. I'm not scared. I don't think I can do it anymore because it's doing something to me." And now, what is the something? And Paul Sorvino doesn't ask him. He just says, "Well, I need you. You're my partner. I need you on this case." And I don't know how I never picked it. That always just went way over my head. And I think you have to really go to the film, because Friedkin doesn't give you all the answers. There's another scene that I never really picked up on where he's in the alleyway outside, Pacino's character, Steve, and some men are walking by, one guy kind of swears at him, and then he meets one guy and he goes off with him. And I thought, did they have sex? Like, you never see him have sex with a man, but what was going on there? So I actually like, I read what Ebert said. He hated that Friedkin didn't give people answers. And I thought, well, isn't that what makes it more interesting? That not only do we not know whether Pacino was a possibility to be this killer at the end, when he looks in the mirror and he's hanging on to the leather coat, and he still has the hat that a lot of the guys wear that he was wearing in the S&M clubs. And it's, perhaps all that repressive feelings that he was having was coming out in violence, was coming out in murder. So maybe he was a second killer or a third killer. I mean, there's no answer. Even the guy they catch, it's still questionable. He may have been one of the killers, and he probably was. So I just think it's a really interesting exploration of repressed homosexuality within this murder mystery. And I think it was really missed at the time, because there was so much controversy around this film about the fact that a lot of gay people were fighting for their rights at that time, and they were making headway, and now we're showing a fragment of gay society, which is the S&M clubs. And they were like, this is just going to make people think that we're all like this, and you're going to give us a bad reputation. This is a big Hollywood mainstream. And I think there's some that's valid in a way. But because people are just gonna see a trailer and being, oh, look at all these gay men. I kind of get it. Well, I get it. So, but other than that, and I think all that, also how graphic it was. I mean, he really goes into those S&M clubs, Friedkin, and God, I mean, he really shows. I mean, he's showing like anal sex. He's showing everything. He apparently, as I'm sure went undercover in those S&M clubs just to see what they do and how it is, so he can really photograph it. So I think now maybe it was ahead of its time, because I know that since it's had sold out screenings when it's been rescreened and people really enjoy it. Maybe we can kind of look away from the shock of the content and the controversy around the protests of the time, and really look at it for what it's about. And I think it's a really clever, engaging film that is emotionally driven, and at the same time the audience is really involved in participating as to who Steve, played by Al Pacino, is, and whether he's gay or not. Maybe he's bisexual. He won't tell his girlfriend anything about what's going on. Suddenly he doesn't want to sleep with her anymore. She says, well, if that's the case, maybe we should just break it off. And I like I like that he didn't tell you everything about Al's character. I like that he sort of had the audience left them guessing, so they can reflect later on. So I think it's a great film. I know you like it as well, but what are your feelings on
So
this?
my feelings are, well, I'll start off with like what you touched on is the controversial aspect about it being offensive potentially or dangerous to the gay community. So I saw this like you when I was really young, and it scared me. And the murder aspect, not anything about the gay aspect.
Particularly the first scene. The first scene is really scary.
And I saw it, as time went on, and I didn't know. I mean, this is my point. I didn't know that it had a reputation, a negative reputation with the gay community until I was still pretty young. Good friend of mine who happened to be a gay guy really loved this movie as well. I loved it. And he goes, and he told me, it's like, people protested, still like, a lot of guys don't care for this film. And I didn't understand. I'm like, well, why? I mean, and what I said was exactly this. I'm like, well, it's not to me saying that this is a representation of the gay community, that they're violent, that they're all leather, or all this. It's one story about a killer who happens to be targeting men that are gay. And he made a point. He's like, yeah, but that's you. That's you. For every one guy that thinks like that, there's about 100 that are going to think, yeah, see, this is what it's all about. Everyone's violent. Everyone's in leather. Everyone's, ugh. And he goes, and that's what could be dangerous. That reaction could be threatening. And I went, oh, okay. And so as time's gone on, I saw a screening of it not long ago when theaters were open, and it was packed, and it was actually part of an LGBTQ kind of, not a festival per se, but a night
of the Royal
cinema
here in Toronto.
Yeah.
I think I almost went and I couldn't make it, but I remember when
the hosts, discussed all of this and kind of made me like, oh yeah, all right. And they're like you said, 40 years removed, it's okay, but know that 40 years ago, a lot of mainstream, especially straight good old boy Americans saw this as, yeah, see? And I didn't think that way because I'm not a guy like that, but there's a lot of guys that do think that way. So I did see the potential danger. But more specifically, if anyone ever asked my opinion on, yes, but do you find it? Here's the deal. As a straight guy, my opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's precisely because I can't, like that's my point. I can't understand. I can understand, but I don't, because I don't feel that way, because I'm not part of that community, any fragment of it. I have no say as to whether or not this is dangerous or an offensive film, whether it is considered that way today or 40 years ago. My opinion on this matter doesn't matter. What my opinion I think matters is just as a film, as a thriller, I like it. I like it a lot. I've seen it a lot. In fact, the idea of the undercover agent getting in too deep, whether it's shown like this is a unique angle on it, and whether it's Donnie Brasco or State of Grace or Rush with Jennifer Jason Leigh,
Mm,
I like all that blurring of black and white when
right,
a cop
right.
gets in too deep. And whether it's, Donnie Brasco, this becomes his family. State of Grace, Sean Penn goes to infiltrate his old buddies. Rush, they are undercover, drug agents that get addicted. And then this one, it's like you say, it's more of a shade of gray. And I do find that in this case more fascinating than the other films. I've always found it, I think it's very interesting exactly for the reasons you said, because it's not handed to me, because there's no clear cut. I'm always wondering what does that ending mean? I don't know. And I
Yeah.
love that. And that idea though of getting in too deep has been a theme I
Mm,
later realized in a lot of the stuff I've written. And probably due to this film, because I would have seen this when I was before Donnie Brasco, before this was probably the first time I saw that. And like you, I just saw it as like a moody, exactly what
yeah.
you said, a
Yeah. Yeah.
moody, thrilling, and it feels like The French Connection meets The Exorcist, right?
Yeah.
But because
Yeah.
it feels that scary, again, I can understand the backlash. But it took me
Mm,
years to get it. And the only reason
right.
I got it is because I had to stop thinking about, well, doesn't offend me. Yeah, because you're not, of course it doesn't offend you. Nothing does.
Right.
You're not part of this alienated population. Of course it was scary to them. So I
Right.
see
Of
that
course.
now, man. Like, oh my
Oh
God.
yeah. Yeah.
And how
Yeah.
a lot
Absolutely.
of, like I say, for every guy like you and I are like, yeah, all right, I get it. But, I like the film. Yeah, but there's 100 other guys that
Exactly.
are going to
And we
take
are and
this.
we are movie people. I
We're
mean,
movie
we'll,
people who live in a big city and
right.
are in the arts, whatever you want to call it. It's just,
Exactly.
I never, I didn't think of it that way. I'm just watching a movie. But
Right.
again, there
Right.
are a lot of yahoos out there that I can
Mhm.
totally empathize. Like, oh yeah, shit. I totally
So
get
when
the
you say,
protests.
yeah, no, me as well. So
But I
when you
didn't when I
say,
was younger.
yeah, no,
Because I'm like, well,
I
I wouldn't have protested. Yeah, that's not the point. You're some straight white guy. Of course, what are you going to
yeah.
protest? But
Yeah,
I
I
get
don't
it
remember
now.
forming it. I don't even remember what my opinion was
Because
about that. But
it blew
yeah,
over our
I
head because
probably just
we don't have a voice in the matter. But so talking to people and watching that screening at that festival, I'm like, oh, okay, totally get it.
was there any Q&A? Like, did they talk about the content
100%. No one
Okay.
involved in the film, but
No, no,
like
no, of
the
course. But
organizers, yeah, they all just shot questions back and forth, and a lot of guys in the audience and girls thought, it's sort of 40 years later, it's kind of campy, and so I'll say this too. So I do, as a film, forgetting all that stuff, just as a piece of art, entertainment, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I find it really, really pulls you in. I feel very effective. I find it unnerving, interesting, exciting, mysterious. Ooh, what's happening in that scene? Like it's quite interesting. But one thing that always irked me, and thank God William Friedkin cleared this up for me, is Richard Gere was the guy he wanted. Now, if you can
right.
picture Richard Gere, this is like right around when he would have made American Gigolo.
Mm,
Yes, that for me is the one thing that would have made this movie. It would have
yeah,
changed this movie for the better. Nothing against Pacino, but
yeah,
Pacino in this role with his ill-fitting tight jeans and his dancing. I just thought, oh God, I know you're trying, and God bless Pacino, but imagine a young Richard Gere. Oh
yeah,
my God. I'll say
yeah,
that would have been sexy. He would have
yeah,
been like, I would have bought that he'd blend into that world really quick. I don't think it would have been as like, man, it would have been like, I would have bought the ambiguity and he's sort of androgynous. And I think, yeah, Friedkin's right. And Richard Gere apparently signed on to do it. But
yeah,
once
yeah,
Pacino said, I want to do it, and he was a bigger name, the studio had to, you got to go with the box office. And
yeah,
again, I love Al Pacino, you know that. But
yeah.
man, oh, I keep imagining if this were Richard
But
Gere, I could picture him in the shades and the jacket. I'm like,
yeah.
yes, this
But
movie would have been way better.
I always agreed with that. I always thought, yes, that would have been he would have been more naturally fitted for it. But when I watched it again last night, I thought, but isn't the guy supposed to look like he doesn't fit in? Supposed to look like
No, because
he's
if you're
struggling
hiring
and
someone to go
uncomfortable?
undercover into a world, you want someone who can blend. If I'm if I want to go
And yeah, and
undercover,
they thought he would just because of his hair and eyes, because he looked
yeah,
like
which is
killers, right?
ridiculous. Then
Yeah,
anyone,
I mean, he looked
Christopher
like the
Reeve could have done it.
victims.
Anyone,
Yeah,
yeah, but so does
yeah,
Richard Gere. What are the victims? Brown hair. Eh, Ah,
right,
but
right.
so I can't help but every time I see it, I'm like, so close. This movie, and I really think not just like it would have been a better performance, I think it would have changed how people saw the film. I think it would have been less aggressive. I think
Yeah, it could be.
there would have been like
Yeah,
a smooth, like, okay. I think Gear would have been more tender. I would have found it more interesting. I would have found, fuck. I just really wish he had done the film.
yeah,
At like that guy. Having said that, Pacino does, I think, his best, and he's still very Al Pacino to me, though. And he's not as like I found Al Pacino as Serpico would have been better in Cruising. Like that guy was different than 1980 Al Pacino. And
yeah.
1980 Al Pacino wasn't just older; he seemed to be playing like I'm a man, and I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? And the Serpico Pacino was closer to the Richard Gere, I imagine, which was a little more delicate, a little more nuanced is what I think I'm looking for. And that's what a character like this needs to be, a little more delicate, a little more nuanced, because you're trying to infiltrate a world you know nothing about, but you want to relate. You don't want to stand out. And Pacino stood out. But having said all that, it still works. And I think the film as just a film, not looking at the political aspect of it, but just as a piece of, like I say, art, whatever, entertainment, let's call it. I think it really works. And I love that, yeah, you don't know who the killer is. Is he the killer? And a bit of interesting trivia is, you don't know who the killer is because they kept casting a different guy to play the killer each time, right? It's never the same
Yeah.
actor. In fact, every time you see the killer, the guy playing the killer was the previous victim.
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Right.
impossible. What a mind-blowing concept Friedkin had.
And was that mainly just so you never know, even up until the
Exactly.
very end?
You
Yeah, because
never
I
know.
was, and then the only thing that was the same was the
The
voice,
voice, which
but
was
the
a consistent
face.
voiceover,
Yeah.
which was another
Yeah. So
actor
he's leaving you.
altogether.
Yeah, and he was leaving you totally in the dark. And even the guy they find out, well, I mean, the guy that they arrest for it in the end, you don't
We don't know that it's
find out
him.
any. Well, they
James
did have.
Remar, right?
Yeah, they had his prints on one of the killers, so he may have been one of them. I don't know, but they don't
Well,
really show much of a motive behind it, which
well,
is okay
no,
because they go
that's
into his
right.
world.
Yeah.
And that scene with the father, and then you see these letters he was going to send his father, which looked like he was
Oh, that
tore
guy.
into
Yeah.
him.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. The
Yeah,
schizophrenic
so
kid.
maybe they were saying that was like because he didn't mail the letters, all that rage went out in murder.
Yeah.
That's
We
what
don't know
I
what we're
kind of
saying.
put
Like,
into it.
was
Yeah,
he trying to appease his homophobic father?
right.
Was he?
Well, that's the thing. Again, that it goes again back to that.
Well, that's effective
Reflexive.
storytelling, though, because it kind of puts you in the detective Pacino's head. Like,
Yeah,
that's the closest thing I got, so I'm going to focus on that. Okay, and then it's a great example of like, I don't know if this is the guy, and here's some evidence about his past to do with his father. Because I want it to be this guy, I can make that evidence fit, but it isn't necessarily factual, right? Like, meanwhile, another
well,
guy
and
could be
they
running
even
around
tried to
murdered.
do that, and I thought it was interesting that they even tried to do that with the first guy they arrest. Remember when they found out it wasn't him?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there was
yeah. I
so
know
much
exactly who you're
there
talking
was
about.
there was so much pressure to find someone, and
Close the
and
case,
because
man. Close the
because
case.
there was an election coming up. Let's close
Yeah,
this.
man.
And I remember one of the cops says, "Well, you know what? I think I can." It's like
I think
I
I
mean,
can fit this.
I think I could fit in. Paul Sorvino's like, no, it's not
Yeah.
him. And speaking of Paul Sorvino, I love him in this movie, and I
Yeah,
thought
same here,
I
man.
know
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
Friedkin had told him try to find the sorrow and the pain of this guy, that he's seen it all and it's just affected him so much. And every shot he
He's
looks
great.
like
He looks
the brink
tortured
of tears.
and
He looks tortured. I thought he was really good, and I like that. It made sense that then Pacino didn't even include them when he went after the second guy, because he hated the way they dealt with it.
Well,
they
Pacino
beat the
says,
shit out of him, right?
well, he goes, "You're just going to arrest gay. You just want to put gay people away." So he kind of went solo on this, and like you say, look,
because they were calling him they were calling him the F word. I was like, whoa, what is this about? Is this about the murder, or is this about taking it on to this guy because he's gay? And then Paul Sorvino's like, well, that's the job. That's how you got to get. You might only have the one chance to get it out of them, and it's like, okay. And I don't know. Pacino sort of just at that point takes it into his own hands. But I'm curious, when you say early on that this film is, the guy, just like Donnie Brasco and other films,
right? He
goes so far into it that you don't quite know if now he's actually in that world or still acting. Do you think that the repressed homosexuality was a big part of his character?
I never really thought about it. I don't know. I think I think the director is asking of us that it's something to consider. I don't think any one thing. I think that could be it. I think
he does suggest it. He doesn't say this is it, but he gives enough suggestions that it would be valid.
It could be that. It's there. You're not making it up. And so sure. Like, Donnie Brasco, whatever, like for different reasons in these sort of films that I really love, it's the cop just gets in too deep, whatever that means. And here it is, potentially like, oh man, do I have to admit to myself, let alone the world, like, my girlfriend, am I gay? Do I like this? Like, I don't know. Like, you could easily argue that that's in the film, right? I think it is. It is in the film.
I think it totally is.
Yeah.
I think it, and I like I said, I don't know how these things. I don't remember the last time I saw this. It's been a long time.
Oh,
I was like,
I've seen this like 6 times. I've seen it 5 times.
Particularly that one scene when, sorry to our seniors, but I'm going to say this, when his girlfriend's going down on him, and his eyes. Seniors. I don't want to say. I know my language has already been called into question, so I'm gonna try to clean it up. But
going down on him is a way to clean up your language. Well done.
All right, let me put it another way. No, but I thought then he cuts to Pacino hearing the clubs, and I thought, is that a stimulus? Is that a way to get off on imagining something while this woman's going down? Or is it
he's afraid that that's going to happen to him? Like,
that's
I
true
don't know.
Too. Because his face is so neutral throughout Pacino. Not always. Like, there's some scenes where you see him tear up.
But when he's not, there's a big thing. I think he's more neutral and distant when he's not in his undercover character. I think when he is in his undercover character, he's more human. So that says something. Like, maybe he does feel more at home. Not necessarily in leather bars, but in part of the gay community, like especially his relationship with the neighbor.
Yeah, that's right.
The aspiring screenwriter is just a fellow who happens to be a gay guy, and they really get along really well. I mean, it's the most earnest relationship he has in the entire film. Is just him and this guy, and look how he cares.
And it's the only time everything is bright. It's the only time everything is light.
And it's the only time that you're goddamn right. And every time that kid is, in a fight with his boyfriend, that's who James Remar was. Not anyway. He gets really upset. And anyway, so I mean, it is saying he's the most human in those relationships in his undercover role, where when he's, just apparently himself with his girlfriend Karen Allen, that's his most detached. So what are we saying there, right?
Well, that's what's so interesting about it. And I think it was interesting that Friedkin would always be telling Pacino to hold back. I mean, he knew that Pacino had a strong emotional life and responsiveness. And he was I think that was the only scene with when he breaks into the neighbor's house.
Yes.
And had the argument. It's the only time you see that violent anger come out of him. Not that he was screaming, but just it was even the way he pushed the chairs.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa. And I remember, I know you and I have both read Friedkin's memoir. He said that that was one thing about Pacino he was really impressed about, was that he had a very violent temper. But as we know, the two of them didn't quite gel. Like I'm confused as to why Pacino, according to William Friedkin, showed up never knowing lines. Because over spontaneity, but this is a guy from the theater. This is a guy who did rehearsal after rehearsal performance. He knows that spontaneity comes from repeats as well. So I thought why would, I mean, was he experimenting because now it's on?
No, but I just thought,
because he's not a lazy actor, right? Like I just thought that's
no, but you're asking like a good question from an artistic standpoint, but it also could just be he's 39, successlike, he just wants a paycheck. Like, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah,
people are like, "Oh God, how dare you say Pacino?" All of like Dustin Hoffman and Marathon Man. Oh, he was method. Yeah, no, his own admission. He's like, "No, I just was partying all the time." Like, what are you gonna do? And so, for all we know, Pacino just. I'm past the point of that. I'll figure it out when I get there.
Yeah, and this was.
Oh, you're frozen.
This was at the point when he had.
You froze. You froze.
Nope,
you froze.
Am I frozen?
You're back now. You're good. Okay. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. This is when his career was film career, anyways, was somewhat on the decline. Even though now "And Justice for All" is considered a classic, I believe at the time it didn't do very well, and Bobby Deerfield was a
tanked.
So this is when he was sort of, maybe he was just. He was starting to lose interest in working in film at that time. And then later on, of course, in the late 80s and 90s, he really kicked things back off. But I found that strange. And then, I don't know if you remember that chapter in the book that when he showed Pacino the cut of it, this is what I would love to see, what the original ending was in the script, because he said, well, you're making it suggest like I'm the killer. That wasn't I would have played it differently. And Friedkin said, well, this is the way I'm doing, or this is the way I'm putting it out. And he won't talk, to this day, will not talk about the movie and will not talk to William Friedkin. So I thought, well, what does he mean he would play it differently? I don't understand what he means by that. I mean, no one could understand unless Pacino talks about it. So what was the original ending? Was it just that they cleared up the case? I don't know.
I don't know, but James Franco made a movie called Interior Leather Bar, which is about the missing 40 minutes of footage.
Yeah, that's right.
I have not seen that. I'm interested to, though. But
I think it's just basically more S&M.
It's just
clubs, right?
Yeah, I think he just made a movie about sex.
Well, he asked Friedkin, "What did you shoot?" And Friedkin said, "I just shot more of the sex scenes. That's it. There was like 40 minutes of it." And Franco's like, "Let's go shoot that and recreate it."
Let's go shoot a bunch of sex scenes.
Why he wanted to do that, I have no idea.
I don't know.
He's done a lot of weird shit.
Yeah, he has. The weirdo.
But other than that, I love the film. I think when I watched it last night, it was my favorite viewing ever.
Well, that's something. That says something good. If you watch a movie over and over and you find that it gets better, that's a real,
it does. It does, because like I said, it you have to participate in it, and I don't think I ever was participating in it. I was just caught up in the mood and the thriller of it, and just a really quick story. When I first saw this, when I was 16. We used to have, and I don't remember why, but this is before Netflix, of course, 2003, we had a satellite dish or something. And this is when I was trying to watch everything with Pacino, everything with De Niro. And I would go through the TV guide. I didn't know anything about cruising. Oh, Pacino's in it, circle. And I taped it. And for some reason, you couldn't change the channel when you were taping stuff off the dish. I have no idea why. I was on at like 2 a.m. Anyways, so I said to my mom, "Don't change the channel." I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So she wakes up to the opening scene and thinking, what the hell is that? and I'm surprised they let me watch it. I'm thinking, geez, I was only 16. But she was like, what? All it was guys stabbing each other, and Pacino's having sex with this woman off and on. What is this garbage you're watching? And I said, Pacino's in it, man. I gotta watch it.
That's funny, man.
That's my first viewing. But the Blu-ray, this that I recently got from Arrow Video, man, the print. Because I don't think there is a really good print online of this.
No.
This print is phenomenal. I mean, it really enhanced my experience watching it because it is so crisp. It looks, because like the ones I've seen, they look like things off bad VHSs, you know.
Same.
Even the one I taped, you know, in 2003 off some late night cable show. But the Blu-ray, I think this just came out. Yeah, 2019. Arrow Films. Highly recommend it. It's got some good features as well on it, documentary featurette. But yeah, absolutely. Great film. Was there anything else, Steve, you wanted to mention?
No, I'll say if you don't have that Blu-ray, you can rent it or buy it on, you know, the usual platforms like YouTube and iTunes and Google Play and Cineplex. But it's not on any of the conventional Netflix or anything. And yeah, so I think maybe your best bet is to get that Blu-ray Robert has there.
Especially if you're already a fan of it. I think if you're a fan.
If you're a fan, definitely.
If you're and if you're a collector, a physical media collector, this is something you want on your shelf. Well, great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Again, if this is your first time here or if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our channel by pressing the Coffee with Aliens logo floating above my head to your top left. And then click the bell you'll get a notification every time we release a new video or go live. Thank you again. We'll see you next time.